Over the last year and a half, I've had a chance to try out a ton of EVs. Everything from the smallest Citroen Ami to the luxury cars like the Porsche Taycan. But which is my favourite EV? Well, it's right here. I keep going back to the Polestar 2, and in today's video I'm going to do 9 reasons I would buy a Polestar 2. Well, it's not 10 because I couldn't think of 10, so yeah. Hi Electroheads, I'm Tish, and here's 9 reasons I would buy the Polestar 2. My first reason is likely the most obvious, and that is the Polestar's design. It might not be to everybody's taste, but it certainly is to mine. I love the simple and bold design with those subtle creases along the bonnet and down the side, which just make it feel simple and stylish. Very Scandinavian. I like the front grille. It's simple but also bold and feels modern. This really does feel like the cars of the future that we were promised. There are very subtle details that have been brought across from the founding company Volvo. For instance, in the headlamps, you have that Thor's head-like hammer design. You've also got the frameless wing mirrors on the Polestar 2. Another one of my favourite things. They just feel so elegant. The car that I have here is actually the single motor, but you wouldn't actually know that by looking at this vehicle. The only way to tell is down here on the sticker. At just over 4.6 metres in length and just under 1.5 metres tall, the 2 sits somewhere between hatchback and compact saloon class for size. It offers a slightly raised ride height, seating position and vantage point, but it doesn't quite have the bulky proportions or the extended roofline of a compact SUV. Interior design matches that of the exterior. It's simplistic but bold and stylish. It just gives you a feeling of serenity. But despite the fact that it feels reasonably simple, it's also quite driver focused over some of its rivals. This centre console actually comes up reasonably high, so you feel slightly more tunnelled in than you do in something like a Tesla. But simple design doesn't have to equal basic quality. Everything inside the cabin feels so well made, and everywhere you look there's different materials. You've got the material along the dashboard, you've got the wood effect which runs all the way along the dashboard and down to the centre console. Even the air vents have some nice heavy weighted metal in them. It just feels good quality. I also love the volume button. It's also got this heavy weighted kind of chrome with some diamond detail in it. It's just all very nice, and it looks like things like the central touchscreen should be wobbly, but when you go to move it, it's so solid. That Scandinavian practicality, just like Volvo, is a true delight. All versions of the Polestar 2 get an electric tailgate. They also get, oh, it worked! Gesture control on the boot. Now inside this boot you have 405 litres of boot space, but what I really like is the boot is actually divided. In this single motor car you get an additional amount of boot storage, which means you can pop your cables under there or anything else you want to keep hidden out of sight. But sometimes this boot might seem a little bit too large, and when you've got items like I have, a small suitcase, they might roll around. Well, there's a solution to that. You've also got this part here which lifts up, and then that splits your boot in two. And you can also pop your shopping on these hooks here. But that's not the only storage in the Polestar. There's also some storage under the bonnet as well. It might only be 35 litres and there's no fancy little sections that you can pop things in, but it's still good to be able to pop away your cables when you're not using them. There's also some interior quirks as well. There's an interior hook, formerly known as a curry hook, clip on the windscreen for tickets, storage down the centre console, and a hidden cup holder in the armrest. All which I've been using to store Battenberg cake. Visibility is very good. The only thing that lets it down is the rear window. It's slightly small, but that doesn't matter because you've got nice large side windows, and you've also got a very good view out of the front, which is aided by the fact that you can actually sit up rather high, so you can have a commanding view over the bonnet. On top of all of that, you also get front and rear parking sensors as standard and a rear view camera. Lighting is a huge selling point. All Polestar 2s get front LED adaptive headlights. And that means that different LEDs will switch off as you're driving along. So not to dazzle people on the other side of the road, but to give you full visibility. There's also a very cool light bar on the rear. This square design frames the tailgate, and it also looks very cool when you unlock it, with a great light signature. But interior lighting doesn't miss out either. You get this great little light up Polestar signal, which is on the gear selector, and up here, it's beamed onto the sunroof like a bat signal. Another reason is just how customizable the drive and the assistant settings are on this vehicle, and how it remembers as well. So you can change things like your steering feel to firm or light depending on how you like it.
That's what she said.
And as well as one pedal drive. You can have it set to one pedal or turn it down if you don't like that as much. Assistant settings like lane keeping aids, collision avoidance. If these are things that you don't like, you simply turn them off on the touchscreen. But the brilliant thing about the Polestar is it remembers these settings and it sets them to them. So when you get out of the car, it doesn't reset everything again like a lot of other cars. The drive. Now, once again, this is all going to come down to personal preference. But for me, the Polestar has my perfect setup. It has a rather firm suspension. So if you want something that's ultra comfortable, this might not necessarily be for you, but there is good sides to having a firm setup. That firm setup means it's engaging. It really grips in the corners, there's minimal body roll, and you feel connected to the car. I did actually love the Tesla when I drove it, a lot more than I was expecting to. But the one thing that was missing is that engagement. Now that's where the Polestar pulls ahead. It has that. And it may not be the quickest, especially in this single motor front wheel drive car. 0 to 62 is a pretty lukewarm 7 seconds, around 7.5 seconds. But that doesn't mean it doesn't feel quick. Still off of the line, it has that grip. It has that grip when you're coming out of corners, and it's enough to throw you back in your seat. But not too much that you feel that it's constantly trying to pull away from you. That is my perfect setup. At first, technology might be deemed as not that good because it doesn't have Apple CarPlay, at least not quite yet. But what it does have is a very good, very intuitive Google system. For instance, when you're using the Google Maps, you can plan your routes and add charging stops and places to eat. It's so helpful. It will also remember where you've been as well, much more intuitive than some of the systems that are built into other cars. There's also downloadable apps, again, not quite like Netflix on Tesla, although they are starting to catch up. Netflix hopefully is going to be following along soon. But there's pretty much everything you'd need, different map options, different music options, and you can even play a few different games. I might not have a family myself yet, but this is a big one. The Polestar 2 is really safe. It scored seriously high in its NCAP rating, and particularly for child occupant protection. It's got loads of safety features, including things like rear cross-traffic alert, lane assist, forward collision warning. You also get plenty of active safety aids to help you avoid having an accident in the first place. Although, Polestar does charge extra for blind spot monitoring. But it does include lane keeping assistant. You get autonomous emergency braking and cross-traffic alert. But of course, not everything is perfect. So here's a quick fire things I dislike about the Polestar, starting off with the keys. These are just so plasticky. Despite being a dedicated EV, it still has a transmission tunnel, which is just sacrilege. And then there's the charging speeds. They're just all right. It can accept up to 150 kilowatts of rapid charge, but that does put it behind the BMW i4, the Kia EV6, and also the Tesla. Unfortunately, it doesn't get a heat pump as standard. That's part of a rather expensive pack. This little floating panel looks great, but it's really hard to clean as things slip underneath it. I've lost a few hair grips. Sorry, Polestar. The vegan materials used are nice, but they look easy to mark. So those are my 9 reasons why I would purchase a Polestar 2. But above all else, it just comes down to a feeling that the Polestar gives you. It's a feeling of serenity, safeness, quality, and that for me is more important than a lot of other things. Yes, okay, the Polestar does fall short in some areas over some rivals, Tesla, but for me personally, this is the car that ticks the most of my boxes. But what EV ticks all of your boxes? Let me know in the comments down below. If you've enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit the thumbs up button. And if you want to learn more about electric cars and electric mobility, then this is the place to be. Hit the subscribe button and follow us along on our journey. See you later.